現在固定主の皆において第7の死因よキヨ今鉄は炎に精霊よこの魂を救いたまえ。
Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Talk FGO Wanted, the show where we let you know if you want to roll that 5-star. So we are changing the formula immediately. Usually when I do summer episodes, I just do mechanics and I do it for all the units on the banner because they aren't new units. You know, they're summer skins of pre-existing units. Guess what? We're not doing that. This time we basically have a bonus anniversary servant. We had first anniversary, yes. What about second anniversary? So yes, we have a all-new unit as our Summer 1 unit. So this is the limited SSR Moon Cancer, the mysterious Executor, Ciel. And we will do history, lore, mechanics, and more, or something resembling those things. But yes, this is just the Ciel video. Talk more about SR stuff at the end, I guess. Also, by the way, this is Wanted 150. Thanks for watching all these years. So, Ciel's an original character, so we'll be skipping history entirely and moving straight to the Type Moon lore. And, if somehow you don't know, Ciel is a pretty big deal as a known character because she is a Type Moon heroine. She is one of the major leading ladies. And specifically, again, if you don't know, she is one of the heroines of the original Tsukihime VN. Her appearance in FGO is yet another case of basically just a cool cameo, you know, to celebrate Type Moon, mark how far we've come. You know, fan service in the classical sense, that it's like, hey, look, it's Ciel. Isn't she cool? It's very similar to how Archetype Earth is, because at least when she appeared, she's not necessarily directly related to the FGO story, though Executor Ciel is going to be showing up in the upcoming summer event, because she's on the banners. But, as you know, summers are just one of those wacky things we do, right? Now, this Ciel, or Mysterious Executor Ciel, but I'm just going to say Ciel from now on, is technically, probably, from the Servant verse. Her profile describes her as a wandering vampire hunter, a sexy teacher, and an idol of the Sapphire Galaxy. Her true identity is Space Ciel, but that her relationship to the Ciel of Tsukihime is a mystery, so the usual Nasu coyness. She is a Ciel, but she's not literally the one from Tsukihime because continuity. Now that said, fundamentally, Space Ciel is described as being functionally the exact same as the Ciel from Tsukihime Remake, but because she's Space Ciel, her power level and special effects have been scaled up to sci-fi proportions. So this means that on the one hand, parts of Ciel's backstory probably don't apply to Space Ciel, but we can kind of discuss her general character, give you a recap of what's going on here. Ciel first appears as a major character in the visual novel Tsukihime, first released in the year 2000. And while she is a supporting character who appears throughout all the different routes, she is also one of the main heroines, so she has her own complete route you can follow. There is a large amount of backstory and development here in this route with multiple endings. We won't be unpacking all of it, but it's there. We don't need to dive into it, but we can discuss some of her background details so you know what we're dealing with here and kind of, you know, the character types. Also, as Ciel-sensei, appearing slightly differently, Ciel does basically fulfill the role of the Tiger Dojo in Tsukihime. She teaches you about avoiding bad ends if you fuck it up, so keep all that in mind. Ciel's birth name is Elysia, and she was just a random girl from the French countryside. So yes, Ciel is canonically French. And I probably would have done some kind of bleep joke there if I didn't say it with not enough space to do the edit. The script has an asterisk in it. Anyway, in the original Tsukihime, she was born in 1976. However, she was chosen to be the 16th reincarnation of Michael Roa Valdemion, a name that is perfectly normal until you get to the end bit. No, a dead apostle ancestor with the power of real reincarnation after death. As a result of shenanigans, Ciel is not from a famous or influential family, but her physical and magical potential are very, very high. In her youth, Roa eventually subsumed her personality, taking over her body and making her a vampire, eventually taking over her village as Dark Elysia before getting killed by Arcoid. The church then recovers her body, and several years later, after study, she revives. The wiki summary of this just kind of like says it happens, so if there's more detail than that, you will have to play a Tsukihime. I didn't mean for that to rhyme, sorry. It's hot and I'm tired. There's a lot of ad-libbing off script here. Anyway, after reviving, she was baptized and took the name Ciel. She becomes an executor of the Burial Agency, the agents of the Holy Church who hunt down demons and vampires. She's trained in magecraft, swordsmanship, shooting stuff, using her black keys, and more, and goes about her business. The church also gave her her big bad weapon, the Seventh Holy Scripture, which is a pile bunker which resembles a crossbow. It's made from a unicorn horn, and it has anti-reincarnation prayers etched on it, and it's over 1,000 years old, so it's a Tsugami, so it's got a spirit inside of it, and it's an immortal killer that can prevent reincarnation by completely dispersing the soul when used. Are you sensing a theme here? The other major theme is that Ciel is also an immortal herself. So long as Roa is alive, she cannot die, basically. And obviously being so important to the original Tsukihime, Ciel appears in the sequel, Kagetsu Toya, made in 2001. Not necessarily canon, but it did happen. It came out anyway. And in several Melty Blood games as a playable character. The first Melty Blood was released in 2002. That's also kind of crazy. But I did mention that Space Seal is based on the remake version more so. So, the remake of Tsukihime, A Piece of Blue Vest Moon, came out in 2021 originally. Global release was in 2024. Available on consoles anyway. And while her backstory is basically the same, the timeline events have been moved up a little, so her birth year is now 1989. That's right, Ciel is now an elder millennial. A remake Ciel is also a character in Melty Blood Type Lumina, which is based on the remake timeline, same year. Each ascension she has as a servant has a slightly different nickname befitting her slightly different appearances and various jokes. So the base one is the mysterious executor Ciel, you know, just pretending to be on vacation. The second stage is Miss Ciel, or Ciel-sensei, obviously for that joke. And then the last one is Star Ciel properly, who could also be considered an Ultra Ciel. Because of her focus on ranged weapons, the Burial Agency did codename her Yumi, or Bow, which is relevant because despite her natural presence concealing abilities, she is a better fit for the Archer class normally. You know, I think there's some various logic for picking Moon Cancer, especially from being from the Servant verse in space also, but the qualifying for Archer better thing will come back later in her abilities. Who says that, you know, jokes aren't deepest lore? And additional fun facts, Ciel's design was influenced by a character named, I'm going to assume this is the pronunciation, Clobette, from Takeshi Takeuchi's Dojin series Valkyria, first published in 1998. This was in turn influenced by a TTRPG Takeuchi run, but yeah, he had a couple of independent Dojin mangas, as in just the normal independent publishing kind, chat. But Ciel's design and personality type takes some cues from that. Ciel is also fairly popular and is referenced in a few other bits of non-Type Moon media. Apparently there's a costume pack for Phantasy Star Online 2. But yes, Ciel is more of the, you know, cool, collected type. Somebody, it was Ark, called her an Iron Lady, so, you know, there's some differences in their personalities as major heroines, as evidenced by the bed image I'm using for this does show them together as a contraster. Is what I got, okay? But, you know, there's also some goofing. And nobody pay any attention that she disguises herself as a high school student when she's, like, at least 25. Maybe I should do a how do you do, fellow kids meme edit and put it in here right now. Now, we're going to do mechanics, but before we do the normal mechanics, let's add a little fun fact. Normally, I don't talk about the servant growth curves because it's pretty easy to max level everybody these days. In the early days when, you know, mats were more limited and there was more difficulties going on, you know, you might actually have to consider when your servant starts getting good. For the most part, you're going to have max level stats these days. But I do want to point out that Ciel is weird. She is, I think, the first and possibly only servant to have a, like, mixed leveling curve. She starts as a semi-reverse S, which would be... Semi-reverse S would be raises sharply for the first few levels, plateaus in the middle, raises sharply at the end to max out. But at about level 45, she switches to just a linear curve. And like I said, as far as I know, she's the only servant who does this. She's certainly the first. So, isn't that a fun time? But she is a SSR Moon Cancer. She's on the higher attack end, though in general Moon Cancers are pretty much weighted for higher HP, so her HP is no slouch, but she is a higher attack one. Anyway, deck is Quick, Arts, Buster. Average hit counts, average NP gain. NP gains 0.46, that's pretty in the middle. She's got pretty alright hits. Even high for Quick, I would argue, but you've only got one Quick card, so less impactful. Her NP is Single Target Buster. It applies Sure Hit and Ignore Defense for 1 turn first. It deals bonus damage to demonic enemies, and has a full chance to instant kill, so if the enemy is a bronze tier enemy, they will probably be instantly killed. This should also be after damage. Not that it matters as much with Buster, but, you got 12 hits, so you're going to generate some crit stars that way. Also, after all that, you get 20% NP refund. Overcharge effect is just NP damage up for 1 turn first. Pretty comprehensive, but has what you need to stand out. Thinking about kind of like the extra effects that get put on Noble Phantasm, she has quite a few factors in there. I think I accidentally said that as does have instead of does have. She does have instead of do have. Weird. Anyway, her first skill is a 10% NP per turn for 5 turns, so 50% battery over all those turns. A 500 to 1500 HP per turn for also 5 turns, 30 to 50% debuff resist for 5 turns, and 51% buff removal resist for 5 turns. You may wonder why some of those numbers are not maxed out. We'll come back to that in passives. Second skill is fairly larger, but it's still important. So it's going to be a 20 to 30% Arts and Buster up on self for 3 turns. Normal self-steroid, but also has 2 on-hit effects. If Ciel hits with an Arts card, it inflicts 20% healing down for the enemy for 3 turns. A 30% chance to give them -1 charge, and also strips their guts. If you hit them with a Buster card, you gain 10% NP straight up, and also you get 30 to 50% crit up if you're above 50% HP and at 100% HP respectively, each for 3 turns. And once again, this is one of those HP threshold buffs. The buffs proc regardless of your HP level. They're just not turned on. You will see their icons unlit unless you're at the right HP threshold. So you don't need to worry about not getting them if you're below the HP threshold and then healing later. It's just they will go on. They just don't activate unless you get up there. Final skill removes the whole party's command cards. I almost said command codes. No, removes their command cards, deals a new command hand of just Ciel cards. It's also 30-50% battery. It is a 3 hits, 3 turns of 80 to 100% defense up, and also an on-hit buff that triggers where she will heal 1k to 2k HP based on skill level for also 3 hits, 3 turns. Crazy skill. So basically, unless your opponent is doing defense-ignoring damage, if the skill is maxed out, basically if Ciel is hit, she will heal 2k damage instead of taking any damage because she's at 100% defense up. Though, remember that I believe the way it works is attack ups are like reverse defense ups, so you might still take some damage. I don't actually know how the percentiles work, but in general, you'll be taking little or no damage and then healing 2k for 3 hits. Passives also are fun. She doesn't have a lot of them, but they're good. So, first of all, Magic Resistance A, so she has 20% debuff resist all the time. This means that with her skill, it's 3 turns of 70% debuff resist. She has an independent action EX for crit up all the time. And also, she heals 500 HP every turn. If you wondered why her 5-turn heal was only 1500, it's because with her passive, she will heal 2k every turn. Also, I mentioned it in the lore section, her Executor passive means that she is basically also an archer. She has times 1.5 damage against sabers, broadening out her potential for fighting enemies. So not only does she have the Moon Cancer class advantages, but like I said, her passive means that she literally does bonus damage versus sabers. It's very funny. So, in case it wasn't obvious, Ciel is not an immortal killer, but a boss killer. Sorry if you heard my voice quaver there. I had to fight not to cough into the mic. Anyway, Ciel kills bosses. She's designed for taking on story bosses and challenge quests, or the extremely high-tier free quest nodes, if you want to swing those as well. She has a decent HP pool and a ton of defensive tricks, including, hard tanking those 3 hits with her defense. Also, for her Arts Buster effect, her Command Shuffle is pretty good for that. You can basically guarantee that you'll get to pick from her 2 Arts and Buster cards, so you can, use that to farm NP and crits, or you can use that to, inflict healing down, remove guts, and try and do charge down. And of course, she has Sure Hit and Ignore on every NP with patented anti-asshole technology, as I like to call it. If your enemy is using an evade-type defense, she will literally never miss. And, like I said before on the arts, you got a gut strip, all those kinds of things. Very good, fun stuff for taking out enemies. She even has crit up for follow-up. This means you're going to want to juice her with the appropriate Buster supports. Merlin, especially post-buff, is a great pick. He's got hard defenses, he does max HP up, which remember, Ciel is a regenerating servant, so she might actually fill that up with her various self-heals. And you've got, of course, Merlin's huge crit bonuses, and she doesn't need the percentage effects as much, because, you know, her regenerating skill also is 10% NP per turn. And obviously, Coin of Light also has a big-ass battery and helps with skill cooldowns. You are probably not going to be able to double Koyan reload this, even if you're doing like 90++ nodes. Ciel's skills are all minimum 6-turn cooldowns, so even double Koyan doesn't quite remove that in 3 turns. You'd have to do Mage Association, and even then, I don't know if you need that level of reloading. You'd probably just wait to pop some of Ciel's buffs until the waves with only one enemy are there. But that said, you can use Coin of Light very easily because that will give her even more NP regen on busters. It will give her, extra trait damages, and again, big-ass battery. And who knows, maybe you will be double Koyan reloading to kill like a 1-3-1 or something. Koyan herself's an AoE. It could work. There's also handfuls of other useful buster supports. Like, I'm still getting over being sick, so I have not as extensively cataloged them as I might normally, but you have several budget guys. You could always use Leonidas. I forgot his name for a second. That's how hot it is. You could use Leonidas as like a taunter to like pull aggro off of Ciel in a tough fight. There's several other, budget buster supports you can wombo combo. Osakabe Hime is, crit buster quick focus, but also has defensive buffs to give. There's a few tricks you can do. And if you're doing Moon Cancer teams, I will point out that Summer BB Hotep, her Faceless Moon skill on Ciel's Oops All Ciel turn could be very funny. You could turn that 1 turn of command card lock into 3 turns of nothing but Ciel Brave Chains. Very funny potential there. So keep that shit in mind. Now, for craft essences, there's quite a few you could do. Again, not necessarily writing my deepest research here, but there's several big damage ups you can combine. I would say consider attack up, NP damage up, buster up. That's all pretty important. She does have a 50% battery on her own, so you can go for that as a CE option, but you can also go with no NP at all because you are probably using a Koyan of Light in this combo somewhere, so you probably need to worry about hitting 100% battery less. You can also consider other defensive CEs just to tank more. The Kyrie CEs that give you, like, defense up and then, Arts Buster quick up kind of a thing. She does, basically have the ability to set, our new chain types with one of each color with her, command hand stuff. So there's plenty of funny opportunity here to get in there. So, consider your defensive CEs. Especially, obviously, because if you're going for, like, a story boss fight or a challenge quest where you don't need to end in 3 turns of farming, you may want longevity. And also, again, another fun one to bring up, don't sleep on Ciel's Bond CE, Moonbow. That means that she gets 5% NP per turn passively, all the time, and gets another 500 HP per turn, so she is passively healing 1k every turn, approximately 15th of her health all the time. And then also is 30% NP damage up all the time. Like, it's... You don't get the bonus stats, but, you can massage those numbers with foes and grails and stuff anyway, so, like, it's got some good stuff in there. Consider that, again, for certain longevity fights. Let's move on to the vaunted other stuff. And so, speaking of other stuff, Ciel is the kind of extra who combos class mats. You're going to need Saber Assassin statues for Ascension, which might be taxing with class score work, but hopefully shouldn't be too hard. And skills are going to need Saber Assassin gems, of course, which can also be more annoying, but, can work through it. It's not 3, at least. Also, you're going to need a few mats. This will include seashells, and, at the end, Flowers of the End lilies, which are a brand new mat, so you want to keep that in mind. Also, not listed here, but during the summer event, she's going to have 2 costumes. Also, yeah, sorry if I didn't clarify that earlier, but, she is going to be on a summer banner, so she is going to be involved in the summer story at some point. But, yeah, she has 2 costumes in the shop that you're going to need to unlock too, so keep that in mind. Now, for banners, she's obviously going to be appearing in the upcoming summer event. She's technically the only summer SSR because, as I've been saying on our Discord lately, the next banner is technically Archetype Inception. But she is going to return next year on both the Weekly Moon Cancer banner and the Grand Duel Extra Campaign banners. And also, we do have a confirmed rerun in 2 years during the pre-release for the latest in the postscript chapters past Chaldea. She has a banner as well. So there will still be some rotations running out there, and as a limited SSR who's not a beast, she will return on various GSSR campaigns. And that's what I got. Hope that was okay. We're still getting over being sick. And this is a little bit of a departure from our normal summer, I said in the beginning there, so you guys let me know how you want to handle the summer SRs, because the next Wanted on BB Dubai is also technically a new servant, even if she is kind of a BB, so it's kind of an alt, and she's not even on the summer banner, as I just joked. So I've done summer SR videos before, but usually they don't hit as hard as the SSRs, so that may be asking for a lot algorithmically, but let me know in the comments like what you think. If you are watching this video and you want to see a summer SR video, if there's a decent ratio of comments to do it versus views, we might give it a try anyway. We'll see. And that is going to be the end of the video today. Make sure, obviously, to give us a like and a comment. Subscribe for more. We'll have a BB Dubai video probably in a couple of weeks. Make sure to check out our previous Wanted on Space Aresh if you haven't as well. And if you want to know more about the summer event, check out our podcast, Let's Talk FGO, on this channel. Just did a pregame about it, kind of breaking down the event and other stuff. And we podcast every week. You can also consider joining our channel memberships to support us. That would be super cool. And consider supporting us on Patreon. Could have gotten this episode a little early. And I'll have another shout out for our patrons after the musical outro. And before we go, special shout out to all of our patrons, but especially Adam DeHarp, Blackster G, Call Me Zed, Carlos, Dragon, JDV8000, Rise of Kenji, Rogue Robin, and Sharvor. Thank you for all your support, everybody. Consider supporting us on Patreon if you want to see us do more.